Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Phillipa tohoko ikoa. Most of you, I'm sure, are very familiar with apps and use them on a regular basis. And for those of you who are a similar vintage to me, you'll remember what life was like before apps. So they're a bit of a double-edged sword. They can be really helpful, but they can also be big time suckers as well. So one of the things that I'm passionate about in connecting kids with digital technologies is for them to understand that at the beginning of every process that happens on a digital device, there's a human, and decisions are made at that level that impact on what happens on that digital device. So we want our kids to be able to control technology, not have technology control them, and to be able to be creators with digital technologies, not just consumers. So one of the things I like to do a lot with kids is app design, and I really like it because it can be adapted to any subject area that you're working on. So whether it's maths or literacy or science or PE, there's a way to connect app making into that. And that's because apps like writing or many of the other things that we explore have many purposes. And so that's what kids need to work out, is to look at apps and go, what is their purpose? Are they adding value to the world? The purposes might purely be entertainment. It might be for education. It might be to connect people. And I think with what's happened with the pandemic, it's shown that our ability to connect digitally has been really important when we can't connect physically. Apps can aid our productivity. They can also stop our productivity, and apps can make our lives easier. So I was fortunate to work last year with some schools who were doing a project which connected with the building of a new Dunedin hospital, which is a great opportunity down here in Dunedin. And the students at the schools got a chance to contribute to a lot of areas to do with the new hospital. And some of them chose to do this by designing apps. So the app that you're looking at now was designed by a student whose first language is actually Russian. And her second language is English. So she made this app so that it could be read in both Russian and in English. And she designed it with current information about the hospital, but then added in some innovations that she wanted to see in the new hospital. And she got it to a really high level, so it looked like a professional looking app. And the people from the hospital who looked at it said it was better than any app that currently existed for them. So that was pretty empowering for her, given that she, I think, was year 5 or 6 at the time. Some other students from other schools used apps differently. So on the left, you've got Healthy Pals. So that's from a class of year 2 and 3 students. And so the app was really just a way for them to convey the information that they gathered and the resources they'd made. So they made some videos. Their videos were fitness videos, and I think they had some videos around healthy eating. And this was a way for people to access it all in one place. So they created an app together, and it was great. I was in the class for one of the sessions where all the students had the app projected onto the screen at the front of the classroom, and they were all making decisions about the layout and design and how it was going to look when it was finally made. Some other students from another school designed apps for a range of purpose, mainly to support children in the children's ward. And what I like here is you can see that some of the apps were designed in paper, and we're going to talk about different levels of prototyping in a minute. And so that was for kids who just wanted to get the idea across, but they didn't need to do it digitally, and that's perfectly fine. And then we had some who designed quite a professional level of apps, similar to the one we looked at in the previous slide. And what I liked about what the teacher in that class did was she connected app design with tree diagrams and maths. You can see them here. And so the students learned about tree designs, and then they used those in looking at their apps, and they're looking at the number of strands that come off each screen and then how many screens that would be needed. And they used this to map out their apps. So before kids go into app design, they need to explore some apps. And we may think they've seen lots of apps, but they haven't necessarily seen a wide variety of apps. They might have seen lots of education apps through the types of apps they use in your classroom, or they might have seen lots of gaming apps, but they might not have explored other ways and the ways in which apps can help us to problem solve. So here are some examples of some apps and the layouts that they use. So the one on the left is to remind people to take their medication. The one on the right is designed to use with smart homes, so you can control all the devices in your home. We've got one there for goal setting, one that's just a pure sales app, one designed for kids, and then your basic information app like a weather app. And so that type of exposure to the apps gets the kids to start thinking about what types of purposes they might create their apps for and the types of problems that they might want to solve. And then they can go into starting to plan their apps. So I like to go back to the good old design thinking process, and in designing an app, think about who's it for, what's the problem that you're trying to solve that they have, so why are you making this app? And because if you don't have someone to make it for, then how do you know that this app's going to get any traction? So thinking around the school, it might be ways to connect it into your program. Could be, for example, making a story time app where the children they record themselves reading stories and they turn that into an app that they can take home and they could have as their bedtime reading. It might be creating a maths app, which is teaching kids about particular concepts. So it's an app that you add tutorials to and people can subscribe to your tutorials. It could be a fitness app showing ways to be fit or ways to be mindful and stay well. You could have a recycling app telling people where the local recycling centres are, or a guide to what you can and can't recycle in your area. It might be an app that many schools seem to want, which is around creating a centralised space for all your sports drawers and sports information. Or it might be an app for the whole school. And so those are just some avenues for you to start thinking about what your app might be for and who it might be for. So when in the real world of app design, the prototypes start off as very sketchy. So that is so that you can create an app very quickly, and that means cheaply. And then you can show that to your users and they can test the design. So just a sketch out on paper is a great way to start. And that's where we're going to start our students. And then you gradually build it through to a high fidelity prototype, which is the type of design which is close to going out to market. So when I'm doing this with students, my main tool that I use is Marvel. It's known as Marvel on Android devices and on Chromebooks, and it is known as Pop on iOS devices. And I'm about to show you a video shortly which explains how the app works on your devices. I'm fortunate to work in some schools that have mobile phones as part of their kit, but if you don't have that, this works perfectly fine on iPads and tablets. I've also got some images there for Sketch Eyes and Sneak Peek It, which are websites that I use to download templates. You don't have to use templates. It's fine for the kids just to draw some rectangles and photograph those when they use the app. But if you want to have some that they can use, sometimes it just helps to them to control their design. So have a look at how the Marvel app works.
Getting started with Marvel in 5 steps. Step 1. Select a device and name your project. Begin by choosing Create Project. Select the device you want to create an app for and give it a name. Awesome! Step 2. Add your sketches using the camera. Hit the plus symbol and choose Camera. Then take a quick snap of your sketch. Adjust the photo. Perfect! Repeat this until you've added all of your screens. Step 3. Link your sketches to a target. Select your first sketch. Then pinch the area you want to be interactive. Now we'll choose Link to Image and select the screen you want to link to. Step 4. Add some magic with transitions. Hit Transition and select an animation. Then hit Done. Step 5. Play it back and share it with your friends. This is where it all comes together. Simply press the play symbol. Now, when you press the action points, the screens will move just like in a real app.
So as you can see, it's a pretty cool app. And here are some pictures of some students designing their apps. They just got the template. They're doing their drawings onto the design, and they're having to think about where their buttons go. When they create a screen with 10 buttons on it, that means they then have to create 10 more screens. So that's a really good way to teach them to keep things simple. A couple of these are pet finding apps, and the bottom left one is one for sharing with people about motorbike tracks in the local area. Once the kids have designed their apps and they've uploaded them onto something like Marvel or Pop, they can then go and test them with the people that they're meant for. And this is probably a hard part for the kids, as you'll know from if you've had any experience with design thinking with your students, is for them to actually really focus on the feedback and to keep their voices out of it. So if you think about it, when you go onto your phone and you start using an app, you don't have the app designer standing behind you telling you how to use it. It should be intuitive, it should be instinctive, and that's what they need to watch for when they are designing their apps. So they just need to put that in the hands of the user and then step back and watch and try and be as quiet as they can, which, as you know, can be a challenge. And to really listen to that feedback and be prepared to hear things that they might not necessarily agree with. And it doesn't mean they have to make that change, but if lots of users are giving them the same feedback, then they really do need to probably look at their design. And then to do the classic retesting and seeing if their changes actually work. If you want your students then to go through to making a high fidelity prototype, I can recommend some 4 pieces of software. So this is one which is the extension of the Marvel app. So this is on this is web-based in the browser. You can also do it on the phone or a tablet, but I find it easier on a device, and I think maybe the kids do too. And that's where you can import actual images, you can import very nice icons and text, and you can actually start to make your app design look really slick and professional. These are 3 pieces of software I've also used for app design. So On Air is the one that you saw earlier in the slideshow where the girl made the English and Russian hospital app. She used On Air to make that. And when you look at the app, there's On Air has its own app that you can then test your app so it looks real on the phone. It's not in the Google Play Store or the Apple Store or anything like that. And anyone else looking at it would have to have the On Air app installed. But it does show its functionality on the phone, and the kids, it's pretty empowering for the kids. They love it. Adalo is one that I've seen used and used very successfully. It's not one that I've used a huge amount myself because On Air has done what I've needed it to do. But it's one I'd like to learn more about, and I know that some other colleagues are using it and really like it. It's like anything, try them all and see which one suits you and the needs of your students. Thunkable has quite a high entry level. It's actually quite usable, but there's a lot of code in behind it. So if you've got some kids who are pretty good with their block-based coding, then it's a really good tool to use because it means you can create an app that can actually be uploaded into the Google Play or the Apple App Store, which is quite empowering for kids. It's pretty rare to get kids through to that point. That's obviously quite a process, and you have to make a real commitment to it. Most teachers I've worked with are happy to get their kids to the stage where the apps can be viewed on a phone through another app rather than actually having to put it in an app store as such. If you do want to go ahead with that, there is plenty of support within those stores to tell you how to do it. I've done it through Google Play, and to do that, I just needed to create a Google developer account. And once I did that, I was able to upload the apps that the students had made and then share them with the people who wanted to use them. And that was a very cool process and very empowering for the kids because both of them had actually, the young people I was working with, had designed apps which were being used by companies. So one of them was employed by the local city council to design a tourism app for Dunedin, and that got used at a tourism show, so it needed to be in the Google Play Store. And another student designed a team quiz app specifically for another council. So they'd heard about this previous student having built an app, so a second one designed a team building / quiz game for them within the app, and that was put through the Google Play Store. So depending on your confidence levels, it's up to you as to what stage of the process you want to go through with app design. But I definitely recommend Pop and Marvel. I think that's a fantastic level to get the students to, and they are so thrilled when they see that they can tap and navigate through their app. And I guess that's the one downfall, is they can only navigate. You can't do things like enter passwords or watch videos. And so for those who are itching for a bit more, use those other pieces of software. But feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. Just give it a try and see what you can come up with. And hopefully your kids will come up with some cool ways to solve problems with apps.